Previously, I totally dissed the remake of The Stand, that 9-part series that was on CBS All Access back in 2020. Well, recently, I went back and watched the entire run. Was my first impression right? Come find out. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages. I'm Jim, the father of this father-son show, where we talk about fantasy, science fiction, horror, and whatever other nerdy thing we feel like. Zach and I enjoy bringing videos to you here. If you enjoy this one, be sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. If you need evidence why, check out all the other videos on our channel. So much goodness, so much to entertain. So let's talk about The Stand. This is my favorite novel of all time by Stephen King, specifically the unabridged version that was published in 1990. This delightful, apocalyptic horror fantasy novel perfectly turns the story of a pandemic that wipes out nearly the entire human population into an epic battle of good versus evil, that in the end is really a battle between the philosophy of the creator, who gave us free will, and the enemy, who wants to control everything, including us, shaping us into just what he desires. The Stand showed up then as a 4-part ABC miniseries back in 1994. So just 4 years after this book came out, the full unabridged version, very popular novel of Stephen King's. And this 94 miniseries was packed with stars of the day, many of whom would go on to become even bigger and better. This was a launching pad for some of their careers. We had actors like Gary Sinise, Molly Ringwald, Rob Lowe, Ray Walston, Jamie Sheridan. Those are just some of the amazing actors who appeared in that first miniseries and put in stellar performances and helped lead this production to rack up 6 Emmy nominations, winning 2 of them. I loved this adaptation, probably in great part as the screenplay was written by Stephen King himself. So I wasn't so sure about hearing that CBS now was coming out with another adaptation of The Stand back in 2020. But as a fan of the novel, I had to give it a shot. So I watched the first episode right when it came out, and I didn't care for what I saw. And I DNF'd. I have trouble DNFing things. That's how much I really didn't get into the first episode. The choices they made, I went, I don't need this, and never watched the rest of the show. Even stuck in my home for 2 years in a pandemic. But now, just recently, I felt I should give the show a better chance. I mean, it's got some decent names in the film. Stephen King's son, Owen, a successful author in his own right, is the producer of the show. And Owen and his father actually collaborate to create a new ending just for this miniseries, an epilogue. So, okay, I figured, why not? Let's check it out, see if I was right to disregard the show. Well, was I? Here's my takeaways. Longer is not always better. While it was true the unabridged version of the novel is better than the shorter original version, that does not hold true in the miniseries. Despite how long this book is, the original miniseries managed to pull off a great adaptation in just 4 episodes, each about 90 minutes long. The new 2020 version covers the same content in 8 episodes, each about an hour long, meaning that's 2 hours of additional content to cover the same material. Plus, they add an extra episode, that epilogue, that was brand new just for this. The enhanced length of the miniseries did not improve the story. It actually slows things down at times in ways that aren't good. There's pacing issues with it. At best, I'd say the story was covered as well as the original miniseries, but no better. And some parts, like Larry Underwood's time getting out of New York, or Stu Redman's original time in captivity, those suffered from real drag in this new version. How about the actors? Well, head to head, most of the original cast beat out the newer versions. There are a few really prominent exceptions, though, and the biggest for me is Whoopi Goldberg. She puts in a performance as the new and improved Mother Abigail, and she was a showstopper. Mwah! Exceptional. Way to go, Whoopi. Greg Kinnear pulled off a terrific Glenn Bateman, definitely surpassed Ray Walston's original performance. Odessa Young as Franny, she ran circles around Molly Ringwald's performance. Sorry, Molly was never up to this role in the first place. That was a definite weak link in the original show. One I was willing to forgive because the rest was just so good. The greatest fail, in my opinion, in the casting of this and the performance actors put in was Henrique Zaga, playing the role of Nick Andros. He did his best. I think this is how he was directed to perform the role, but he's no Rob Lowe. It just didn't have the same charm, the same attraction. I didn't really like his Nick. Now, let me give a shout out for Jovan Adepo as Larry Underwood. I think he actually did capture the essence of the character with depth and quality. I'm not sure it was better than the original portrayal by Adam Stork in the sense of becoming the character we see in the book, but the acting was still exceptionally strong. I would watch more with that actor. Another issue, they made the choice to be strikingly different in telling this story as compared to both the book and the original miniseries by going non-linear. The early episodes start in Boulder, Colorado, which we don't get to until halfway through the book, and it focuses on the survivors of the pandemic who are already gathered together and then gives us in flashback the story of how various key individuals got there. So this assumes, honestly, that most viewers watching the show were already familiar with the story of The Stand and needed to have something fresh or else they would lose interest. Because this is full of massive spoilers then. You know who already made it to Boulder. There's no mystery as you go back and look at these flashbacks. Thing is, this non-linear storytelling simply bogged down the pacing of the show. It was not better than a strictly linear A to B telling of the story. Kudos for trying something fresh, but it did not work better than the original. Special effects were certainly better in this newer version. You could tell they sunk some money into this. Not that the effects were weak in the original. That's, the categories they actually won Emmys had to do with, makeup, special effects. But today's viewers, they're pretty savvy now about CGI and other special effects. You can't easily hide behind the flashy visuals anymore if the overall script, the direction of the show, the overall production has some flaws. They're not going to buy it. And honestly, the cloud at the end, if you've seen it, you know what I mean. That was even a little cheesy. Now, how about that epilogue? I mean, hey, fresh content about The Stand? It really wasn't worth being added. It doesn't match up to the rest of the story, the quality of what we've already seen. It makes a statement about what the real point of The Stand was, but if you'd been paying attention, you already knew that point. You didn't need it hammered in again. You should have been able to figure out everything that the epilogue added without having the epilogue, and honestly, it kind of felt a little cheap. Overall, the story's fine. It just wasn't better. And if you're going to do a remake, you ought to surpass the original. I ended up having no problem watching this, but I would have been fine if I'd never bothered. So, if you've not watched the remake, I can still say, don't waste your time. But if you really want to give it a try, it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to offend you. It is acceptable. And then you can still go back and watch the shorter, original miniseries and get everything you really need. That's where I'll leave you today. If you have watched this new version and have thoughts, put them in the comment box, especially if you've watched both and you agree or disagree with my take. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I will respond. I really appreciate any time people choose to engage with our content. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.